Romance fraud costs Brits £80 million every year, and our first guest today is hoping his story will warn others.
Yeah, 70-year-old Rodrick Lodge believed he had found love again after he tragically lost his wife. But what seemed like a promising new romance soon turned into a nightmare when Rodrick realised his new fiancée had scammed him out of his life savings.
He's here now to share his story alongside the head of the National Trading Standards Scams team, Louise Baxter. Good morning to you both. Good morning. Good morning, Rodrick. Can I start by chatting to you, first of all, about... So you lost your wife. You've been together for 25 years. Can you tell me about how this whole thing first started?
Well, I had been in the UN for over 15 years and I'd visited Kenya a lot. I've been based in Kenya from '91. And I'll be honest with you, I love the country. I love the smells, colours. But when my wife died, I was in a situation where new horizons, I thought. So I went back to Kenya because there were lots of friends there. And I met this lady. And quite quickly we became intimate, and I thought she was going to be a part of my life. That was in 2020. And then by 2023, I'd retired the year before. And I thought that this lady was going to be a part of my life. But then she got a job in southern Sudan. And we ended up, she said, look, I've got another friend who has heard about you. And can I invite her to communicate with you? So we started chatting on Viber. And we started just a chat every day. And within 3-4 months, it was going further. And even though I hadn't met her, I started thinking of marriage. Stupid. But anyway,
It seems, I mean, in hindsight, you can hear how that sounds, but in the time, in that moment, Rodrick, you felt a real connection with this person.
Totally. And because I'd retired, I could spend more time there. So in December of 23, I went, and I was staying with friends throughout the country.
This is in Kenya?
In Kenya, yeah. But to be honest with you, by the end of the April, she wouldn't come to meetings. I said, come to Nairobi. She was at the coast. And it just, I was sending more and more money for...
So the way this transpired, you had this original friend.
Yeah.
That relationship had to end for whatever reason. She connected you up with one of her friends.
Yes.
And you were just communicating via text, via email, via WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And this friend started saying, look, I'm building this house. This could be our forever home, but I need some money to try and keep it going. Could you send me some money to start improving the home?
The original lady, had told me that Anita, this lady that was created, had got a beauty business. She got 30 employees. She lived in a very nice part of Nairobi. She got 2 cars, 4x4, and sounded like a real businesswoman, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very capable women in Kenya, to be honest. And so I started funding the development of the house. She had actually built the house, but needed the actual internal fitments. But it ended up totally, altogether, about 85,000.
That's how much you sent her?
Yeah.
Over the space of how long, Rodrick?
Well, that was... I sent a few thousand to Mary to help her just with her car and such. But so with Anita, it was over a year.
Over a year, you spent £85,000. At any stage, did you think, oh, maybe this isn't the right thing to do? Or did you get any warnings from anybody? How did the bank respond?
Friends of mine said, look, Rod, please, you know, think about this, you know. And
so they were concerned, your friends were concerned?
Yeah. But it wasn't until really the beginning of May last year that I said, enough. The last thing, to be honest, was that her dad was in hospital with cancer treatment, more money. And I said, so I got a friend of mine who lived in Mombasa to check the hospitals for me. No such person.
So you'd gone to Kenya to try and finally meet her because you'd been communicating, sending all this money, and then she kept avoiding coming to see you in Nairobi. She was some different part of the country. But by the time you'd sold your house, you'd gone over there, you were funding your stay by staying in Airbnbs. By the time eventually it dawned on you that Anita didn't exist, you didn't have enough money to come home, did you?
Absolutely. I've been very lucky over my years in aviation, where I have a very good core of friends. And lots of my mates, in fact, they used to work for me when I was in the UN, because I used to have air ops operations. And all the guys, one particular guy, a very, very good friend of mine, a French chap, he's a 380 driver with Emirates. Yes. And they actually clubbed together, the group of the boys clubbed together to get me a staff ticket home.
So you've spent all your money, your life savings have gone, you've sold your house.
Yeah.
And you realise it's all gone on a scam.
Yeah.
What did you do when you came home?
I went on the streets for 2 weeks because I couldn't actually find a location that would allow me to go into the system of being, you know, without a house. And eventually Guildford helped me, because I used to live in Guildford Borough, and they helped me. And so for 2 months I was in a housing, hostel.
Yeah.
I still had to pay, but thank God I've got a few pensions, but I basically live from month to month.
And Rodrick, is there anything you can do about this now? Have you pressed charges? Have you opened an investigation?
I've done that with the Kenyan police.
Right.
The problem with Kenya, seriously, is it's a great country, but unfortunately you need money to do everything.
Right.
You can't get the police to do anything without money, and I didn't have money.
Yeah.
And they actually warned me, because we actually physically know where the original lady lives.
Right.
And they told me, the police told me, said, do not go there, because she could say you're intimidating her and take a case against you. Not that I've got any money to pay for her court action, but yeah.
I think your bank, one of them particularly, reached out a number of times and said, look, Rodrick, we aren't sure what you're doing is the right thing to do. I just need to give you their right of reply. This is what Halifax have said. They questioned the payments you were making on multiple occasions to the legitimacy of Anita, and they gave guidance on romance scams. We spoke with Mr. Lodge on several occasions to express our concern about the payments, to ask how he knew the person claiming to be his partner was genuine. We explained the threat of romance scams specifically, but unfortunately he continued to authorise the payments. We urge people to never send money to someone they haven't met in real life, and to always listen to advice or warnings about scams from their bank. I mean, in hindsight, you can hear what they're saying there, and it seems rational to us, and you've already said what an idiot you were. Why do you think, Rodrick, you fell for this so...
Well, because the contact came through the First Lady, I honestly thought that couldn't be the case. You know what I mean? It's not like one of these romance scam operations from Nigeria, you know what I mean, that so many people get caught by, because I had known...
There was a tangible person at the start of it.
Yeah, yes.
Louise, let's come to you now. These romance scams are really on the up, aren't they?
Yeah.
Cases. Who's most vulnerable?
The people that are currently reporting that they are victims of romance fraud are the 55 to 65-year-olds. That's the highest category. It's gender equivalent, so it's equal to men and women. There's a slight difference, with 52% saying it's men, 48% saying it's women. But it's massively underreported because of the blame and the shame around it and the embarrassment. But I think we need to call it what it is. It's abuse. It's emotional abuse. So Rodrick was emotionally abused. He was coerced. He was groomed. He was controlled and manipulated by somebody he thought that he was in a relationship with, and who hasn't given money to somebody that we're in a relationship with. We wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah.
So we've got to be kinder to people that are victims of fraud and scams. Even some of the language we say, we would never say, I fell for a mugging. We say, I fell for a scam. So we're putting too much heat on people like Rodrick. So you're extremely brave, as you know, that I've already talked to you about, in the fact that you've come on to talk about this. Because the only way we're going to deal with it is by driving the reporting up, which will then drive the law enforcement response up, and actually us getting a truer picture of the scale of it.
What can we do to, if you've got family members, you've got friends, and Rodrick's friends were trying to say something, the bank clearly made an effort to try and get him to think carefully about this. What can we do to try and protect the people around us that we're worried about?
Come on, Louise, come on, programmes like yours.
Yeah, Rodrick, we don't want them to come to this stage, though, do we? We want to stop them before that, so...
Something about, so there's a acceptance of we're in what I would call a storm of vulnerability at the moment. Right. So you've got situational vulnerability. So without telling you, but we've had this conversation, is bereavement causes situational vulnerability. Loneliness, social isolation causes that situational vulnerability. Loneliness is the equivalent on your health of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Right? So we lean into things. And then if somebody gets us in one of those periods of vulnerability or susceptibility, we get pushed into what's called a hot state, which then challenges our decision-making processes. So the best thing to do is ask someone else who's objective. What do you think about this? What do you think about these communications? And if you're that person that gets asked, deal with that person kindly and empathetically. It's not rocket science, because then it's permission to have an open conversation, which then allows people to chink away at that hot state and see the decision they might be making and actually the reality of it.
Is there anything else that individuals can do to protect themselves?
The banks. So from a banking sector perspective, if you think that somebody has been a victim of fraud or scams, or you yourself are, report it directly to your bank. There was a new system that came in October last year, where is if people have authorised and pushed money away from their bank account, they should get a refund as long as they haven't been grossly negligent. So as long as the person hasn't completely ignored all of the warnings from the bank, they should get a refund. And if they're vulnerable, they should get their money back. Okay. Protect your money with your bank and then report it to Action Fraud so that, again, we can drive up that reporting and get that intelligence.
Yep.
As Louise says, go on, Rodrick.
I've lost my future. I will be truthful. I was hoping for a retirement in Kenya. I've still got lots and lots of friends there, but I haven't got even enough money to get an airfare there now, you know what I mean? And I do have pensions, but it would be very difficult to go there now. Unfortunately, well, it's impossible.
Yeah. But it's very brave of you coming on and sharing, because it's not often we get men talking about being scammed, even though, as you were saying, the stats are pretty similar.
Yep.
Usually it's the other way around. So, you know, thank you for coming and sharing your story. And
thank you, I appreciate it.
Anybody hears what we've been talking about today and it helps them, it's going to be worth it.
Oh,
hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.